So the next part of our project here is to add more elements into our transition logic master scene. So I'm going to navigate to my folder here where I saved our master scene, and I'm going to double click on the scene to open it. So basically what we have so far is just one basic lower third. We're going to add another lower third element to it. So I'm going to create a brand new group here, and we're going to put inside of this group our top part of the lower third. So I'm going to name this one lower third top. And again, I'm just going to throw another group in here and let myself and everyone else know that this is our lower third top design. So all my design elements will come in here, and it keeps it separate from the toggle. So now let's use another built-in object here to complete our lower third, and we'll just use a rectangle again. So I'm going to drag a rectangle down into this group, go into the rectangle editor. I'm going to say width is at 700 and the height, how about, let's say 50 this time. And we're just going to move this lower third down to on top of the other one, maybe just right around there. Go back into our rectangle, and we can turn on our use vertex colors. Basically we can just make this any color we want. I'm just going to do a quick gray here, gradient, maybe something like that. Good enough. Now that I have my rectangle, next step will be to animate. So you just decide how you want this to animate on. The last lower third that we did just kind of scaled up, so if I rewind it, you can see how it scales up there. Maybe we can do the same thing for this one, and I'm just going to go into my transform editor. We'll make the axis center left and bottom, and again I'm going to kind of work backwards. So at 30 I'm going to set a keyframe. I'm going to rewind my timeline to 0. I'm going to set the scaling to 0 as well. I'm going to hit set keyframe. Now I have my animation right here on this container, so if I click on my animation icon, it takes us into the stage. Now by default what it did is actually threw this scaling into our lower third. So what I need to do is actually break out this animation here. So I'm going to create another director, and I'm going to right click on this director, and I'm going to call this something different. Maybe let's say something a little bit different. Let's call this one L3 top. Again, if you have a piece of paper, just write this down. We'll need to know the name of this later. Now that I have that director renamed, I'm going to go grab that animation by clicking on it. If I click on the spoked wheel icon, I can easily find it because it highlights it up here in the stage. So I'm going to take this rectangle animation and I'm going to slide it into our L3 top. Now this animation is in this L3 top director. The next step we need to do is to make stop points. So I'm going to click on my L3 top. I'm going to move my timeline to 0. I'm going to hit set stop point. I'm going to click on the stop point. I'm going to highlight it. And again, since this graphic is in the out state currently, I'm going to hit capital O. I'm going to move my timeline to the right to the last keyframe. I'm going to add a stop point again. I'm going to highlight that stop point. And again, we're going to name this. We can name it anything you want. I like to keep it simple, so I'm going to name it A. And you do need to be careful of what your containers and your directors are named, but stop points, not so much. As long as the out state is always capital O, it doesn't matter what the other ones are. So now that I have my two stop points in here, my director is renamed. The next step I need to do is add a toggle group. I'm going to drag a group into my lower third top here, and I need to rename this group the exact same thing as my director. So I'm going to hit L3 top, and then I'm going to go into my built-ins, into my CP tab, and we're going to get that toggle plugin again. I'm going to take this toggle plugin and drag it down onto that group. Again, it adds the subcontainers. If I click on the toggle plugin, all I need to do is hit the default keyframes. And once I do that, it adds this spoked wheel animation icon. I can click on that. It takes me into the stage. And again, it shows us that it made all these extra directors here. We're just going to ignore them for now. What we're going to do is take another snapshot, and we'll call this one L3 top, and we're going to save our scene and then close it. Next step is to create the call-up scene for this L3 top. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to come into my folder here. I'm going to right click and create new scene, and I'm just going to call this one L3 top. I'm going to open up my L3 top scene. The first thing that I want to do is throw that snapshot in there. So I'm going to go fetch that snapshot, drag it into our background. And again, I'm going to add a group into this scene tree because this is where the object control gets added. We're going to grab a font as well. So let's go into our font container, we'll drag a font down here and we'll just kind of position this over our lower third top. And again, if you wanted to add some type of color to this font, it's fine. You can do that. I'm just going to leave it at its default setting of white. We also want to add a control so that the operator will be able to change this text. So I'm going to add the control text function. And again, it automatically added that object plugin at the top. In our control text function, we can change all the parameters here if you wanted. So if you wanted strictly uppercase, if you wanted to expose the kerning and stuff like that, you could. We could give a description if we want. For instance, we'll call this L3 top. And the field identifier, since it is the only control plugin on this particular scene, we're just going to leave that one as 1. So next step will be come into our object plugin. We're going to click on that and it goes into the editor. Again, we can give this a description. Let's call it L3 top or something like that. We are going to turn on the transition logic button, and again we have to fill out our information here. So the background scene, we know that it's called master. Our state identifier and our layer identifier, we could have written them down. Our layer identifier refers to the director, and we call it our director L3 top, and we also called our state identifier A. So now that's all filled out, I'm going to hit save. The next step will, again, go into Trio. We're going to import this scene and test it out. So once in Trio, what I want to do is import the scene. And again, within the folder, we have our master, our L3 bottom, our L3 top. Last time we just imported the L3 bottom. This time we want to import the L3 top. So I'm just going to drag this over here into our database. We never want to import the master or the background scene. So I'm going to double click on my L3 top and I'm just going to change the text here, and we're going to save off the text as a new text. So we'll just type something like that in there. I'm going to hit save as. I'm going to give it a number. 1001 is fine. So when I come out to test this now, what we'll have to do is come back and do our direct takes. Now, some cases, depending what you're testing on, I'm on one machine here, so you can see everything is currently in. Before you take or test this thing, it may be possible that you may need to take everything out before you do everything. So I'm going to do a direct take on everything that I have within my options here. And now when I come back and do a direct take, you see we did it on our lower 3 bottom, how it comes up. Now if we try our lower 3rd top, we'll do a direct take on that. That comes up. And this brings up a good point, because you see what happened when we don't adjust the Z position of our font. So what happened here is that when we hit direct take, our lower 3rd came up, but the text did not come up. So we need to go back into Artist and add the Z space onto our font. Okay, so now that we're back in this scene here, what we need to do is adjust our Z position. So I'm going to move this up on Z2, and then I'm going to resave this. We're going to go back into Trio to test it out again. So once we're in Trio again, what I'm going to do is just kind of start from scratch here. I'm going to delete all the scenes that I have, and I'm going to import those 2 call-up scenes again. So I'm going to navigate to my folder here, Transition Logic TL1. The only thing that I want to take is my L3 bottom and my L3 top. So I'm going to drag this into the scene, and I'm also going to drag this into Trio as well. Now, if I double click on these, I'm going to change my text here and save off a page. So this is lower 3rd bottom. I'm going to click save as. Number 1000 is fine. I'm going to go to the L3 top. I'm going to save off a page as this. So we'll call this one L3 top. I'm going to hit save as, and that's 1001 now. So we need to test this out. So I'm just going to minimize Trio a little bit so that we'll be able to see a little bit more of the window here. And first what I want to do is try and take everything out. So I'm just going to do a direct take out on everything. And then we can try it again. So I'm going to come in and say direct take on my L3 bottom, and you can see that one works fine. When I come here to my L3 top, we'll do a direct take, and now that we adjusted that Z position, you can see how that text comes up. So the 2 pages that we saved off of these is 1000 and 1001. If I go to 1000 and do a direct take, it's going to transition to that new text. And if I do a direct take on the other one, it's going to transition to that text. So we can sit here all day and go back and forth and changing these out. And when we want to take a graphic out, we just do a direct take. When we want to bring it back in, we do a direct take. And then if you wanted to change any of these, you just do a direct take and it changes that font. Now you notice that when we do the transition here between each thing, that it's an alpha transition, so it's fading on and off. And if we go back into our server, into our master or background scene in our tree, that's exactly what these extra containers here are doing. So if we open these up, you can see that there's an alpha animation right here. And then we can adjust the alpha animation to have these things fade on or fade off quicker. We can also add our own animations if we want to replace this alpha animation. For now, save your scene, and from here we're going to start adding more elements still to this scene.